I found out about my husband's affair 2 days ago. We've been together for 23 years. Married for 20 and have 3 kids. He's my soulmate and best friend. He blew up my whole life 2 days ago. He's been having an affair with his employee for the last 3-4 months. I've had a nagging feeling for weeks, maybe months. But since there was no evidence, I told myself that I was just being crazy. I found out when she and her husband showed up at my house at 8 a.m. on Friday morning. Thank God 2 of my kids were already at school. And the one kid who was still at home is super oblivious, so he didn't question anything. They asked me to come outside and close the door. They live 30 minutes away, so it made no sense why they were here. I looked at them for an eternity waiting for an explanation. She had such a grief-stricken face that I thought my husband was dead, and she was coming to tell me. She finally said that she and my husband have been having an affair for 3 months. All I could say was, oh my God. I knew it. I needed to get my kid out of the house before I heard any more, so I went back inside to help him get packed up and on his bike for school. They sat in their car until he was gone. Then we sat in my living room, and the husband told me as much as I could stand to hear. Apparently she had spun lie after lie after lie, and they got so elaborate that he went looking for evidence and found the texts, pictures, and videos they had sent to each other over a Google Voice number on their work phones and laptops. They had X in my house on the days that my husband worked from home. They had X in conference rooms at work and in their cars. They had a work function last week that was going to get them 3 nights together in a hotel. But her husband found out about the affair sometime days before that, so she didn't end up going. My husband actually told me on Sunday night in an irritated voice that she wouldn't be at the work function because she had had a COVID exposure, so she needed to stay home. I believed him to be irritated because it would mean more work for him. But now I know it was more than that. Her husband said he could show me everything if I wanted to see it. I declined because I was so overwhelmed and I already know what I needed to know. I am not sure I want to see the specifics. I don't think my heart could handle it. I sent her out of my house and just talked to him. He says he wants to work it out with her. They have been together for 17 years and have a kid. My husband caught wind of what was going down and was calling and texting me. I went to work because I didn't know what else to do. Thankfully, my boss is effing amazing and was the only one in the office, so I told her everything. She helped me to put some steps in place, call the doctor for meds, then go open a separate bank account. I texted my husband and told him not to be home when I got there. He got a hotel room for the night. My plan was to have him stay at the hotel all weekend except for when a kid needed to go to practice or a game. But I have a 16-year-old who is wicked smart, and he is picking up on everything. He has final exams in a week and already suffers from anxiety and depression, which he is in therapy for. So I am trying to keep him protected from this until school is out for winter break in 2 weeks. At 7 p.m. on Friday night he asked where Dad was. My husband works until 7 p.m. a lot of nights, so it wasn't unusual for him to still be at work. I said he's working late night and might not be home until tomorrow morning. My 16-year-old said in a joking way, "What's he doing? Cheating on us?" I couldn't breathe. He made several comments the next day, which made me realize the only way to keep this under wraps is to have my husband come home, and we fake our way through it. Because my husband is her boss. Her husband wants him to quit, which I get. But he is our breadwinner. I only work part-time. And even if I look for full-time work, I don't know that I could find something that would fully support the kids and I. We live in a very expensive city. He actually has been looking for a different job for a while, but it takes time. She's also looking for a new job. Her husband is pressuring my husband to quit, or he will have her claim as soul harassment, which would likely get him fired. He works in a niche industry where everyone knows everyone, so it could prevent him from getting another job. I am totally devastated. Even with anxiety medication, I can't breathe normally. My heart is racing, and I want to throw up all the time. I do not want to stay. I would divorce him tomorrow if I didn't have kids. I can't imagine ever touching him again. He says that is okay, he can live with that. He wants to stay and work on being a good husband for the rest of his life. But this affair started when we were in a really good place. Having sex several times a week. We spent the last week of my kids' summer break doing fun stuff together. And then within days he made out with someone else. He swears it's the first time he has ever strayed. He swears it will never happen again. But if you had asked me at any time during the 23 years we have been together, if he was capable of this, I would have said confidently no. He watched his sister be devastated by infidelity. I feel so alone and it is eating me alive. I have only told my boss so far. It kills me to not tell my best girlfriend, but her husband is my husband's best friend. Her kids are my kids' best friends. We had Thanksgiving with them this year. We rent errands with them to go on vacation. And I know when I tell them, all of that is over. I mean, I know they will love and support me, and my kids will still be at their house and theirs at mine. But they are going to hate my husband. That relationship will never recover. And that kills me. Our blood families live many states away, so these people are our family. We have last-minute dinners. And the guys and kids watch football on Sundays together. All of my closest friends are so intertwined with my family. I can't tell my parents because they will be so crushed. They have loved him from the moment they met him. They adore him and respect him and listen to his advice. My sister won't be able to keep it from them, so she's not an option either. That's why this is so long. I just trying to get it all out so I don't explode. Thanks for listening if you made it this far. I am so sorry you got hit with this. It's brutal. But you're not alone. I can't emphasize that enough. When I was going through this myself, I felt so alone and isolated. It was a tremendous relief to learn that I wasn't alone. You see, cheaters are very unoriginal. And they all pull from the same handbook. There are only a few scripts they follow. And as you tell your story and read others' stories, you will recognize pieces all over. It sounds like you're considering staying for the kids. This is a very common urge, I had it too. Because you're a responsible parent and don't want to be responsible for harming your children's stable family life. The thing to recognize is that their stable family life was already harmed. And it wasn't by you. You can't put that cat back in the bag. But you also do not own that your cheating husband did this to them. And you leaving him is a natural and predictable consequence. All of that is out of your control. What you can still do is model healthy behavior for your children. Whenever you think about how to respond to something, imagine how you wish your children would respond someday. Should they ever find themselves in this spot? Would you wish for your children to stay in a loveless marriage with a lying cheater? I assume not. Then do not model that behavior for them. Imagine what that would look like to a teenage boy. To see dad cheat and mom stick around and spackle over everything like nothing was wrong. What lessons would he learn from that? On the other hand, what lesson would he learn to see dad cheat? Only for mom to behave like a hurt, but responsible and level-headed adult. To see dad face consequences from his wife, his friends, and your families, while mom does the hard work of rebuilding her life without a cheater. It can be impossible early on to see how any of this will be okay. That's normal. And is where those of us who have been through it have to ask you to just trust us when we say that. You will be okay. It won't be right away. But you will get better. But it starts with taking care of yourself and getting clear of the person who is abusing you. I highly recommend reading Chump Lady's Guide on How to Leave a Cheater. Quit worrying about his reputation. He burned that already. Protect yourself. Second story. How do I approach my ex-boss wife that I've never met about her husband cheating? The backstory. I, 27 female, joined a volunteer organization a few years ago. The head of the organization, who I am referring to as my ex-boss 40 male, was the classic ambitious charmer turns manipulative liar, as you got to know him type. The first time I ever heard about his wife was when she called him, and he had to placate her about how he was not cheating on her. He played it off like he was the long-suffering husband of a paranoid wife. I didn't know enough about him to question it at the time. A year or two after I joined, he started an affair with a volunteer. Bella, 28 female. I unfortunately was good friends with him at the time. I knew he was in a miserable marriage. He had told me about crushes he'd had on people in the past. That I presumed he didn't act on. I am very sympathetic to crushes while married because it happens and doesn't have to result in cheating. So I, the fool, teased him a little when I noticed his obvious crush. I meant to sympathize and commiserate on how crushes suck, but you never act on them. Within a week the pair were starting an affair. And I was in a suddenly very awkward position of him expecting my support to continue. To my shame, while I tried to emphasize leaving his wife and not be directly supportive, I also never challenged him or called him out. At the time I kept it to myself because it wasn't my secret to share. The boss was super worried about it getting out because he's worried that he'd lose custody of his kids if his wife knew he was having an affair. He said he wanted to leave his wife, but couldn't do it immediately because he didn't make enough to support separate houses and his wife was a stay-at-home mom. But was working on it. He often played up how miserable he was at home. At the time I never even considered telling his wife because he made me feel like I needed to protect and look out for him. It's been a long process of untangling that feeling. The organization blew itself up for mostly unrelated issues several months ago. And I have mostly left all of it behind. At the time he told me that things were off between him and Bella, but I have my doubts and she's still there. What's bringing this to a head for me now is that I recently found out one of the first volunteers, Sophia, I worked with, had also had an affair with the boss and had left the org because she'd ended it but was feeling pressured by him to continue. This brought everything back up. And I felt more foolish than ever about all the benefit of the doubt I gave him when his thing with Bella started. So what to do? Sophia never wants any of this to come up for her again. And I don't want to burn her for telling me the truth about why she got out. As I've been sitting with this new information this week, compiling it with everything I realized about what a manipulative liar he is in other aspects of his life, I just can't find an ethical justification for not telling his wife at least about Bella. I have screenshots of him admitting to me directly about his affair. I am just scared of getting involved in this. But I should do this. Right. I've also never met his wife. I am not really sure the best way to approach this. It's been months and I have no idea what she does or doesn't know at this point. Except she posted a very kind happy birthday to her husband a few weeks ago. Do I send a first message to her telling her the high level and asking if she wants details and evidence? Do I just send everything at once? I know her FB, but we aren't friends and would worry about message being missed. I also have a work email number for her, but that's a very personal thing to send to that. Your help is very appreciated. Update. I took Blue Dolphin's 1221 advice. I called his wife Michelle on her work cell at a time her husband was busy. I had compiled an email with screenshots and an explanatory timeline ahead of time, so I could just get a personal email and send it to her. Didn't want to send something that's sensitive to a work email. I thought I'd have to try calling a couple times, but she picked up almost immediately. As soon as I said sensitive information she needed to be aware of, she made a sharp inhale, and I had a feeling she knew exactly where this was going. I asked her if she was aware if her husband had been cheating on her. She made that same sharp inhale. She told me that she'd had an intuition, but he'd always lied and deflected, and she'd never been able to get anything concrete. We talked for about an hour. It was heartbreaking. I am glad I did it the way I did. Just having a more human interaction than some anonymous, or impersonal email, or social media message, and being able to answer her questions real time probably took some suspense out of it for both of us. She told me she's a believer in the power telling the truth, and women looking out for each other. She thanked me. I apologized for not coming forward sooner. I did end up telling her about Sophia by name. It was the inciting incident for coming forward. And when she asked what I knew, there was no way I could conscience not telling her what I knew. As soon as the first name was out of my mouth, she knew exactly who I was talking about. She's pretty sure there were a number before Sophia, which given everything makes perfect sense to me. I passed on the advice about getting evidence and calling a lawyer before confronting him. Ex-boss is pretty astute about covering his digital trail though. Especially since she's been suspicious in the past. He keeps things at his workplace which she doesn't have access to, and had a whole elaborate system set up to contact his affair when she wasn't around. She said she wasn't great at playing her cards close to her chest anyway, so I am not sure how that will go. I expect I'll find out when she confronts him, because I have chosen not block him on social media, so if she gets a chance she can check his accounts with me and see that I am not manipulating screenshots or anything. I am sure he'll do his best to spin this. I hope the black and white I've sent her is enough. I know. She's in a financially tough spot right now since he's the primary breadwinner. I offered her financial assistance and pointed out that there's a sizable community of people who feel personally victimized by her husband who might be willing to chip in. She said it might be necessary. If people are interested, I could make another update if something happens. But for now it's in their hands. Too long didn't read. I have evidence my ex-boss cheated on his wife. I've never met her. But I have a couple ways I could contact her. I have no interest in revenge. I'd rather not get involved at all. But I can think of no justification for not telling his wife other than my own cowardice. That being said, I have no idea how to approach her, and would appreciate this sub's advice, and lend some courage that this is the right thing to do. Just be prepared for her to hate you. You being the bearer of bad news and all. I've seen this way too often. It's odd that he pulled you into his affair business, and the fact that you hid it for so long. She won't appreciate that. You won't be the hero. Be prepared for that. I certainly don't feel like hero. I mostly feel like an ass that it took me this long to come to this conclusion, and that I am still scared to do it. But I do feel more resolved. This guy was so manipulative. He really made me think that he and his wife were as good as separated, so it was fine-ish, while he was also very obviously going to great lengths to hide it. All while also thinking Bella was some special case of him just falling in love after a long period of unhappiness. The bullshit was so thick it was over my eyeballs. So I have my reasons, but I can't imagine I'd find them very compelling in her shoes. No. Call her towards the end of the workday. Say that you have sensitive information she should be aware of, and you would like to send it to her when she is alone. Send her the evidence. Tell her that she should not confront him until she gathers more evidence and contacts a lawyer without the husband's knowledge. Tell her everything that you noted in this email, that he was afraid she'll go after him financially. Tell her that he spoke poorly about her. Also tell her this isn't the first time he cheated with a co-worker. Don't name names. She'll figure it out on her own. Do not be quiet. Inaction breeds culpability. Thank you. This is a helpful idea. She doesn't have a 9-5 type job. But I should at least be able to do the reverse and contact her when ex-boss is definitely gonna be fully occupied for a while. Should I allude to the nature of the information, or my connection to her husband in that first reach out? Hi. I am a former colleague of your husband from organization name. I have some sensitive information about activities with some of my other former colleagues that you should know that I want to send you when you're alone and able to receive it. It may be hard for you to hear, so I want to prepare you for that. Just trying to get a script ready. Hit like if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing to our channel.